Hello my friends and welcome back to the studio. David Kessler here. Today I want to talk about inspiration versus showing up every day. That's to the studio, by the way. One of my favorite art quotes of all time is by Chuck Close, who is an absolutely amazing painter. He says, "Amateurs wait for inspiration. The rest of us just show up every day and get to work." I love that. If you don't know who Chuck Close is, you really need to investigate him as an artist. This guy's overcome challenges that the rest of us could not even imagine in an artistic career. Ends up now that he has one of those mental dysfunctions where he can't recognize faces. I'm sorry that I don't know the name of that. He can't even recognize the faces of his family. So when he began as an artist, he says, I'm going to paint portraits with little small, what we would say pixels now, but little small pieces that create portraits so that he could begin to recognize faces, which is an amazing thing in itself. Chuck now is a quadriplegic, but he paints every day. He's fortunate enough that he's been a very successful painter and has enough money to create a customized system where his canvases will roll down into the floor and roll up so that he can move it and paint wherever he needs to from his wheelchair. And he has to lift his arm up and paint in these very small little areas. I mean, some days I have a headache and I don't feel like painting. This guy's in a wheelchair, quadriplegic, and paints every day. It's unbelievable. So if you don't know who Chuck Close is, you need to, hit Mr. Google and find out about Chuck Close. He's an amazing painter, an inspirational painter, and he will make your problems, any problems you have in the studio, will completely go away once you see what he has to do every day just to paint. It's incredible. People ask me all the time, and I think this is probably the most often asked question to painters is, what inspires you? What inspires your work? I'm inspired as an artist by a lot of things, but I don't need inspiration to paint. I just need to be in the studio to paint. I'm inspired by a lot of things. Mostly things that are outdoors. I'm kind of an outside guy, and I love the landscape. Flowers inspire me. The landscape inspires me. Seasons, the change of seasons, this sort of interstitial space between seasons. I love that. It inspires me completely. The ocean inspires me. I've done so many series of paintings revolving around coastal life and the ocean. I think it's just a never-ending sort of reservoir of inspiration. I'm inspired by going to big cities like New York City. I love New York City because the energy that's there, the display of graphics everywhere, the signage, all that beautiful color and excitement and energy of the people, that's all inspiration for me. It makes me feel like wanting to paint. But when I go to the studio every day, I don't really draw on all that stuff. I don't need to draw on that to paint. When you go to the studio to paint, it's funny because I guess I just don't understand this need for inspiration. Painting is a job. It's work. It's manual labor. Painting is manual labor, right? I don't find the need to have inspiration. The inspiration and the ideas for the paintings that I do come from working on paintings. And I think if you talk to any professional artist, that's where they get their ideas for their next series of work, is in the studio. It's not outside goofing around or, waiting for your muse to show up or anything like that. It's working through the process of painting in the studio every day that leads to, okay, this color combination, I've never done that before. Let's do a series of paintings on that. Or I love this compositional idea. I've never used that before. Let's do that in a series of paintings. Or, yeah, I've never done this technique before, but let me try that in a series of paintings. That's what happens. When you're in the studio and you're working, the ideas for work just come. That's what being an artist is about. It's not sitting on your ass somewhere waiting for somebody to say, oh gosh, I think I'm waiting for a bolt of lightning to hit me in the head before I can paint. You'll never be a good painter if you do that. You'll only be a better painter by painting more paintings. Right? You can't wait on some ephemeral inspiration to come out of nowhere, knock you in the noggin, and give you an idea to paint. You paint because you love the process. You're an artist because you love to express yourself. You're an artist because you have that need inside of you to create, to make things, to be a maker of beautiful things. That's what being an artist is about. It's the need to make, the need to create something. So when people ask me what am I inspired by, I don't really know the answer. My first answer is color. Because all the inspiration I get, outside, flowers, landscape, cityscapes, it's all about the color. It's about how can the color create a mood for the work. How can the color create some emotion that you relate to something else that makes sense? That's what I do. It's not something specific that I can pinpoint my finger on and say, okay, this is the basis of all my work, except for color. Almost all the series of paintings that I do are based on some idea of color. It's either color combination or a certain mood or feeling I'm trying to get from the color or the way the color is applied. That's the way I work. So I don't need inspiration. I mean, I got 40 or 50 or 60 jars of paint over here that provide me with inspiration every day. So if you're waiting for inspiration to paint something, don't. Get to the studio. You need to start working, right? Don't wait for inspiration. And I always equate inspiration to this myth that's perpetuated by the media in these romantic comedy things and perpetuated by people that don't paint. They think you have to have inspiration as an artist. You don't. You have to have a place to paint. You have to have the need to create something, and you have to be able to do it. That's what it's about. Being an artist is not about being inspired by something. Being an artist is about having something inside your heart that you have to get out. If I didn't paint, I don't know what I'd do. I've been creative all my life. I have to design something. I have to make something. I've always been that way. And I think as artists, that's the way we are. It's in our heart. It's part of who we are. We can't get away from it. I cannot get away from creating things. I spent almost 30 years as an architect. If I wasn't doing that, then I'm designing furniture. I'm renovating a house. I'm making paintings. It's something I have to do. I have a creative being and personality and heart. And if I'm not creating something, I'm miserable. I have to create something. It doesn't matter. It's got to be design-oriented something. Or I have to build something. I have to make something. It's part of who I am. But I don't need inspiration for any of those things. It's just part of my heart. It's part of me as a person, as a human. I have to do that. And the studio right now is where I choose to do that. For the last 25 years, that's what I've chosen. But I don't need inspiration to be here. I only need a heart and a willingness to do the work. Right? And it's from the work that the ideas come. It's from the work that the inspiration comes. It's from the work that the next paintings come. It's from the work that all my ideas come. Right? So the next time you want to paint something, don't wait for inspiration. Get to the studio and learn how to be a process-oriented painter. Because you'll never, ever run out of ideas your whole life. You won't need inspiration for it. You need an openness for your heart and a willingness to do the work to get better. That's all it takes. Right? So that's my take on showing up every day. You got to show up to the studio to make the work. Don't wait for inspiration to hit you on the noggin. Just get to it. All right, until next time, I'll see you later. Thanks.